The following narration is from Thomas Shepard's Parable of the 10 Virgins, Part 2, Chapter 1 of Carnal Security in Virgin Churches. Matthew 25, verse 5, Whilst the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. In this parable were noted two things. First, the church's preparation to meet Christ from verse 1 to 5. Secondly, the bridegroom's coming out to meet them from verses 5 to 12. In the second part, which we now are to open, three things are to be attended to. First, the delay of Christ's coming, or the long-suffering of Christ before he comes, verse 5. Number 2, the preparation he makes for his coming, a little before it, from verses 6 to 10, by an awakening cry which makes all the virgins look about them. Number 3, the coming itself, where those that were ready were with joy let in, and those that were unready were with shame shut out. First, the delay of Christ's coming. Note first what happened in the interim of his delay, and that is carnal security expressed and set out from the lowest and highest degree of it. They slumbered, i.e. fell a nodding or a winking, as the word most properly signifies. Secondly, they slept, i.e. now they were buried in their sleep, overcome by it. Secondly, upon whom these sleeps and slumbers fell, and that is, they all slumbered and slept, i.e. though for a time they were both awake, yet good and bad, wise and foolish, fell into the senseless and stupid, dull and dead, sluggish and sleepy condition. Observation number 1, that in the last days carnal security either is or will be the universal sin of virgin churches. Observation 2, that carnal security falls by degrees upon the hearts of men. Observation 3, that the spirit of sloth and security is the last sin that befalls the people of God. And observation 4, that Christ's tarrying from the churches is a general occasion of all security in the churches, or the non-coming of the bridegroom and the saints expect him as the general cause of that security which befalls them. Section 2, Observation 1, that in the last days carnal security either is or will be the universal sign of virgin churches. When the churches are purged from the gross pollutions of the world and anti-Christian fornications and bondage, then either there is or will be general security. For these virgins, when they first made profession of their virginity by their burning lamps, were for a time all awakened. But at last they all slumbered and slept. This is the temper of the body of the churches. Matthew 24, verse 38. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. Luke 18, verse 8. When the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith in the earth, i.e. an awakening faith. Hence the Lord forewarns his people of this, Deuteronomy 6:12. When you come to such a land, beware lest you forget the Lord your God. Question: but what is this their general security? Answer: look as it is in our ordinary sleep, so it is in this general security. There are 6 things in it. First, a man forgets his business, his work he was about. So in a carnal security, men forget the Lord, his works and his will. That which we most think of while we are awake, we least think of indeed when we are asleep. Take a man awakened indeed. Oh, then the worst, remember the Lord and his covenant. Psalm 78, verse 47. But when asleep, the Lord and his errand is least thought of, and hence security is expressed by forgetting God. Psalm 50, verse 21. And so Jerusalem's security was in this: they remembered not their latter end. Number 2, a man in sleep fears no evil until it be upon him, awakening of him. So this is another ingredient in carnal security. Though sin lies upon them, they don't fear till evil comes. As Joseph's brethren, though warning is given them, they don't fear, like them in the days of Noah and Lot. And so Job 21, verse 9, their houses are free from fear. The misery for the same sin is lighted upon another, yet the secure soul fears not, as in Belshazzar, Daniel 5:22. Numbers 3. In sleep all the senses are bound up, the outward senses especially. The eye watches not, the ears hear not, the tongue tastes not, the body feels not. So this is an ingredient in carnal security. It binds up all the senses as it did the prophet Jonah's in the storm. When misery was upon him, he heard not, he saw not, he felt not. So when misery, outward or spiritual, is upon a man, he that had quick sense before, he doesn't see, he doesn't watch. Christians neglect their watchfulness for their friends, the Lord and His Spirit in coming, nor watch against their enemies that daily besiege them. The ear hears not the voice of the ministry, the voice of providence, the voice of the Spirit within. The soul doesn't smell, taste not the sweet of any promise, any ordinance, no, nor of the grace of the Lord Himself, hence it commands them not. Nay, the soul feels nothing, no evil, no good. The Lord does him that look as the Lord there said, Isaiah 29:9 and 10. The Lord has poured upon you a spirit of sleep, and has closed your eyes, so that the Lord closes up all the senses, that a man is now stupid, when he has fallen asleep in security. Number 4, in sleep there is a cessation from speaking and motion. There a man keeps silence and lies still. So in carnal security, the spirit of prayer is silent. David calls it a keeping of silence. Psalm 32, 1-3. Up, why sleepest thou? Seek to your God, says the mariners. Indeed, men may talk in their sleep, so men may pray in their deep security, yet not thoroughly awaken. And there is a lying still, no progress. So in carnal security the soul stands at a stay, doesn't go backward, doesn't grow worse, but goes not forward. Such a one is compared to the door on the hinge. Number 5. In sleep, the senses being stupefied and motion ceased, a man falls a-dreaming. Some dreams he forgets, some he remembers, and in his sleep fully and firmly believes them. So in carnal security, now a man's mind dreams of that which is not, and of that which never shall be. A man's mind is grown vain and full of fancies and dreams. Though things which never entered into God's thoughts, something a man dreams of, the Lord, that this is his will and mind, which is not. Of the world, that it is a goodly thing. Of things to come, which shall never be. Number 6. In deep sleep, though a man be awakened, yet he presently is overcome by his sleep. So that is another ingredient into spiritual slumber. Sleepiness is predominant over his watchfulness. And so it is with the disciples in the garden. They slept. The Lord came once and twice and awakens them, yet they slept till temptation surprised them. There is hardly any Christian so secure in the chambers of Christ, but he has some knocks of conscience, some cries of the ministry, some woundings from the Lord, and they do awake him, but yet he falls to sleep again. Section 3. We shall now show the reasons why virgin churches in the last days are or will be overcome by security. First, because that in virgin churches there are the strongest provocations to this sin, which are chiefly 3. Number 1, rest in places of peace and freedom from hard bondage. Jacob may sleep with his stone under his head, but much more easily under his own vine and fig trees. A man may be secure in times of trouble, but much more in times of peace, when we have our beds made soft for us and easy pillows. Friends can boldly desire us to rest where there is lodging for us. The world thrusts us out of lodging, while the prick is at the breast. The nightingale awakes and sings, but when that is taken away, it sleeps in the day. In times of persecution, Paul is preaching till midnight, and the Lord is remembered in the songs and sighs and prayers of the night season. But in times of peace, like Jael's milk and butter, stupefies all the senses, though destruction be near, hence Deuteronomy 6:12. Then forget not the Lord. Do you think that Noah is in the ark when the water swelled above the mountains was secure? No, but when the Water ceased, and he had his vineyard planted. Now he sleeps in his drunkenness, because he knew not the strength of wine. In the virgin church, where this sleep is, we suppose this freedom from evil. Number 2, because there men are most free from inward pain. For where there is much grief and pain, there is no rest, though all the house about be still. But when the house is still and the body well, now it is hard. But there may be rest. While the Christian does live under anti-Christian pollution, his conscience has no rest, and hence it is awake there. Here saith the soul, I want the ordinances of God. Oh, that I had them! Here I see sin and wickedness abounding, that my child is like to be poisoned by it. Here are such and such superstitions that my conscience cannot bear. Hence conscience is kept waking. But in virgin churches, where the house is swept of these, now conscience is quiet and at rest. Now I have got a Levite into my house. God is now blessing me, and so on. Now conscience has laid down its burden. It falls down to sleep. Now they cry, the temple of the Lord, and so on. Number 3. Because in such churches there is most aptitude in men to spiritual fullness, namely, plenty of the means. There is all the ordinances in this mountain. Isaiah 25:1. God's feast is made in fullness of spiritual gifts and graces, because they have now escaped the pollutions of the world, conquered the enmity of the world, now have come to a good measure of grace and conquered the way of their enemies. They have gotten the better of them. So as the Israelites made peace with the Canaanites, not then when they were too strong, but too weak for them, so now the soul comes to be at rest, to lay down its warfare, and to yield to a truce, to a league to his lusts and distempers for a time. When men are kept short of food, now they awake. So when the word of the Lord and his ordinances be rare and precious and hard to find, now a Christian can trudge after them. But when men are full, now they desire rest. So it is here. Number 4. Because in virgin churches, there men are most apt to be overtaken with weariness. A man that never walked on in a holy way may at first, setting out, delight in Christ, but after he is done walking in it, now he is apt to faint, especially if he sows much and reaps for the present but little. And so in Galatians 6:9, it says, You shall reap in due season if you faint not. Now in virgin churches, these virgins are such persons as have begun to make a fair profession, and have made some progress. Oh, how difficult now is it not to be weary. It is strange to see what short spirits after the Lord, what large after the creatures we have. Reason 2, because they are the more easily overcome by this sin than by any other. First, because it is a sin which a man least foresees or fears. The apostle says, They that are drunk, and they that sleep, sleep in the night. And yet here men sleep in the open light. Why so? Men don't see it. Men don't know it. Sleep steals upon them. It is lawful to sleep. Carnal security arises chiefly from the use of lawful things, on which a man's heart and thoughts are spent. They ate, drank, gave in marriage. They could see no hurt therein. When a man is had before councils, now a man fears to sin. He knows he shall be tempted to sin. But when the Lord brings the shoulder from under such burdens, now to fear our tables, our beds, our wives, our children, our callings, our professions, and the snares of these, oh, it is exceeding hard. Number 2, because security is so sweet a sin. Oh, sleep is sweet, meat is sweet, but men may be soon full of that. But when sleep comes, many hours are little enough to entertain that. Some sins are sweet for a time, as a short meal and away, but sloth is a sweeter sin than any else besides. Let a Christian ask his heart when he can take no content in pots, or lose company, or can find none in the Lord, yet this will give him ease, namely his sloth, when he is weary of the world and of walking with Christ also. Yet sloth is his delight, and hence he cries, A little more slumber and sleep, until destruction comes as an armed man. Proverbs 6:9 and 10. When a man delights not in his wife, children, riches, and honors, yet is he sometimes continually swallowed up with his sleep and rest. Number 3, because Satan does make his strongest forces ready always to bring a man first to this sin, because this makes way for the entrance of all sin and misery. No people so happy as the Israelites, while they were awakened, and up with God. No misery could hurt them, Jeremiah 2, 1-3. But when they forget him, all misery came in. While the strong man keeps the palace, his goods be at peace. It is his care to keep men secure and still. Section 4, Use 1. Let us therefore now examine whether the sin be not our sin in this country, if it be not begun among us, if we be not sleeping, yet are we not slumbering? If we are not virgin churches, why have we the name of it? If we be virgin churches, and make a search if this is not our sin. We have all our beds and lodgings provided. The Lord has made them easy to us. We never looked for such days in New England. The Lord has freed us from the pain and anguish of our consciences. We have ordinances to the full, sermons too long and lectures too many, and private meetings too frequent. A large profession many have made. But are you not yet weary? If weary, not sleepy, not slumbering? And may be on you before you are aware, and you not know it. And when so it is, it may be so sweet that you may be loath to see it, that so you may forsake it. Let me knock again. Is it not so? Let me come to every man's bedside and ask your consciences. Number 1. Haven't you forgot your God, and forgot your work also, the business for which you made this great undertaking? When they were saved from the sea, they soon forgat the Lord. Has not the Lord by a stretched out arm brought thee and thine through seas and dangers, and delivered you wonderfully? Are not all his kindnesses forgotten? All your promises forgotten? When the Lord had brought the Israelites out of their captivity, and some hopeful beginnings were, they came for the temple. The dust was precious, but God's house did lie waste. Haggai 1, 5 and 6. Consider your ways. No man prospered scarce in his estate. God did blow upon their corn because they forgot their end. What was your end of coming here? The ordinances of God, the presence of God, and one day there is better than 1,000 elsewhere. Has it been so? No, but as it is in verse 9, every man turns to his own house. Every man for himself to their own house, lot, accommodation, provision for children. And in the meanwhile the Lord's house lays waste. You build that not up. The souls of thy brethren in church fellowship, yea, of your family, are not built up. The Lord's house is despised now, and it is like the schools of the prophets, and much more. Oh, thought we, if we had such privileges, how would we improve them? But when we have them, have we the same thoughts? Do we not forget them, like men that come to a place for gold and find it not without digging? They fall to load their ship with wood or coal, that which it will bear. Number 2. Have not we shaken off all fear almost of sin and misery? Go to the ant, you sluggard. She fears and provides against a winter. Do not men think that we have fled too far for the cross to find us? Or as if the temple of the Lord was such a den as no foxes or wolves could follow us into, especially when there are causes of fear, when war is proclaimed and the causes known, and yet they are not feared? How many men have the handwriting of death in their consciences against them? This they confess is not. They have lived careless, sluggish, and they had some sense of it, yet no awakening fear of the terror of the Lord. When a prince is near us, now to commit a little lewdness is great wickedness. Where is a man that trembles at the nearness of God to us? When a breach is made, then we fear our enemies. Divisions and breaches go before falls of churches. When God has begun to smite, what cause is there to fear? We have been heard, and yet not laid it to heart. The lion roars, shall not the people fear? I believe we should not have had those, quote, furies upon us, but God saw we began to sleep. Where is the man that with Paul knows the terror of the Lord, and hence persuades men? When the enemy is ever about us, there is always cause of fear, and yet we fear but now and then. Number 3. Are not our senses bound up? Look upon men in their fields and conversing, buyings and sellings. Where is the daily, weekly watchfulness over our thoughts and tongues? Look to men's closets. Do men there call themselves to account? Can they find leisure or need of it? Are not men's eyes closed up, that the glory of God in the Scripture is a sealed thing? Men have eyes, but they see not. Are not men's ears sealed up? Some sermons men can sleep them out. Man's voice is heard, but not the voice of the Son of God. Oh, how many men are there that become quite sermon-proof nowadays? Are not men blockish, dull, senseless, heavy under all means? They don't taste, they don't smell, whereas elsewhere how lively and spiritual are they. Number 4, is not the spirit of prayer, that lamp going out in the church of God? The blessedness of all flourishing plantations in the world began by means of that, and shall not continue but as it continues, and if ever cause to seek for prosperity of plantations, these have need. If God should take away this generation of magistracy and ministry, what would this despised country do? And what would become of your children? Then no schools for them when no gospel is left among them. Then every man's sword shall be against his brother, and God spreading a place with darkness, which through his presence is made light. What little hope of a happy generation after us, when many among us scarce know how to teach their children manners? How apt are we, like to those Asian churches, to fall into those very sins which overwhelm them and ruin them? How many fall off and in time break forth that it would make men sick to hear of their pranks? What place more open to temptation of persecution and worldly delusions? Go up and down the plantations. Where is the man that lays things too hard, who has the condition of the country written upon his heart, and presenting it before the Lord rather than his own good? O men are silent because asleep. How do sins run through men as water through a mill, and men don't regard it? What means, what deliverances have we had? But oh, what little thankfulness! Do we make progress? Nay, is not our shadow gone back? I sleep, but my heart wakes. It should be so, but it is not so indeed. Number 5, have we not fallen a dreaming here? What means else the delusion of men's brains? What a swarm of strange opinions which like flies have gone to the sores of men's heads and hearts, and these are believed also. And more dreams men have that are never spoken. Every man has some drunken conceit that rocks him asleep. Dreams are quite contrary to the truth. What means these if men are not sleeping? First, drunken dreams of the world. Secondly, golden dreams of grace. That these things advance grace, which indeed destroy grace. That there is no grace in the saints, no grace in Christ, no human nature, no promise to evidence grace, no law to be a rule to them that have received grace. Who would think that ever any should so fall by a simple woman? But if this be not general, yet look how do men begin to dream concerning the world. Scarce a man but finds want or is well. If he wants, oh then, if I had such a lot about me, such an estate, how well then were I? And e contra, they that have it, and now they take their rest. Take heed, saith the Lord, your hearts be not overcome with cares. So I say to you. Number 6, does not the Lord often awaken us, yet we fall to sleep again? The Lord awaken us by the peco hornet, yet what use is there made of it? Does not the Lord often meet us in an ordinance, but he is soon lost and gone again? Is there a man that has not had his cross since he came here? As loss and cattle and estate, a dear husband, child, wife, dead, a sore and sharp sickness, and so on? He has been exercised with, and so on. But do you not sleep still? If it be not thus, it will come. Fear it for time to come. But if it be thus, and I say no more, but know it, you are in your enemy's hands, and in such an enemy's hand, that if you mourn not under it, will open the door either to the entrance of some cross sin and temptation, or for some heavy and sudden wrath. It is sufficient for me this day to show you where your hurt lies. Section 5, Use 2. Hence see the reason why men are worse in virgin churches than in polluted places, and why it is so generally, because here are more temptations to make them all slumber and sleep. Here their beds are made soft. Here the storms are past. Here they are under the shadow and out of the sun, and security opens the door for an enemy. No wonder if the city be taken, though never so strong, if it grow once secure. No wonder if the world be entered, and men are grown more worldly. And if Satan be entered, and men grow more passionate than before, no wonder a man's work be neglected. If he be asleep, ordinance is more slighted than ever before. Never shall you see security fall upon a man alone, but it brings its train with it. When the husbandman sleeps, tares will be sown, and when the disciples sleep, temptations will enter. This is that which the Lord testifies of his people, Jeremiah 2:2-4. You 3. Hence see one reason why the Lord pursues many a soul with inward terrors and outward sorrows. Those that are fast asleep, because soft speeches cannot awaken them. Hence we lay our hands upon them and sometimes knock them, because this is a way to awaken them, and then they hear. So the word and spirit speak to a man, but such soft, still winds rock them asleep, rather than awaken them. Hence the Lord lays his iron hands upon a man and knocks by blows. And now when affliction is upon you, now you can hear. When as the winds and water were ready to tear the ship in pieces, now they inquire, why were they sent? And a lot fell upon Jonah, who was in sleeping. It is easy to awaken out of natural sleep, but very hard out of spiritual security. All the terrors of God on Jonah within and without are little enough, but at last he could hear and run on his errand. Section 6 of Exhortation, use 4. To watch over one another by exhorting one another while it is called today, Hebrews 3:13. Let both the watchmen and members of the church do this, for this is one means appointed by the Lord to preserve the soul from sleeping. 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 1, 5, and 6. Exhorting one another. As it is in cities when the watch is apt to sleep, they have their companies that are passing up and down the walls the greater part of the night, and so they are kept walking. And we shall find that as it is in a town where men are all asleep, one bellman, one walking Christian will keep life and spirit, and the power of godliness in many, and when he sleeps, all are fast. Nothing in the world brings security sooner upon men than sleepy company. Officers of the church watch not over members, nor they one over another, exhorting and crying one unto another to their work, while it is called today. O then let every man get up and fall to this work of mutual exhorting. Go and visit one another. Go and speak often to one another. And if thou be a child of the light, see that thou endure not thy fellow servants to sleep in the open day in one duty or another. Consider this as one part of your warfare, to keep your watch, in which you may be made conquerors. You complain you have many sins and temptations arising and prevailing. Never do they usually prevail, but when you are secure. First the watch is taken, and then the city is suddenly taken. Now look as Paul, 2 Timothy 4, 6, and 7. He has finished his course and fought his fight, and now expects a crown. How can you end your days in peace, that cannot in some measure find and feel this? The church is the city of the living God. This is taken, and every man in it, unless you be watchful and exhort one another daily while it is called today. And that I may not speak in the clouds. Number 4, their sin will be yours. First, labor to know the state of your brethren whom you are to exhort, what their sleeping neglects be and sins are. It may be you have known one has been very humble, tender, affected under ordinances, made many fair shows and promises of growing and thriving, and sensibly complaining of his own vileness, and now he is in a silent sleep. Do you know this, and will not speak a word to awaken him for whom Christ shed his blood, whom it may be will do you as good a turn and make many a prayer for you? Barnabas, when he saw the grace of God, exhorted them with full purpose of heart to cleave to him. Much more should you when you see grace dying. 2 Thessalonians 3:11. Paul heard that some were idle. Them he exhorts to work. What good might one do? Secondly, if you do not know, inquire with the spirit of much love how it is with them, as David of his brethren when they were gone into the fields. Use 5. Let every man not only exhort his brother, but fear this himself. If you have a race to run, many enemies to conquer, don't sleep lest you fall short. Sleep not lest you be taken captive, lest in exhorting others yourselves prove reprobates. I will not tell you what I fear, but Luke 21, take heed lest your hearts be overcome. Be not drunk with some delight, be not filled with vain cares. Hence prevent it, as Noah, moved with fear, made an ark. First, Set a high price upon those awakenings and revivings of heart that God sometimes gives you. I am sure that you do find these sometimes. A man that has nothing to lose will sleep with his doors open in the night. When a man has a treasure, he will be watchful to keep it. All security comes from an undervaluing of the Spirit of grace and His presence among us. Secondly, consider your continual danger. If enemies be at the gates, all the town is watching. One would not think the depth of security that is in a careless heart. Psalm 30, verse 6. I said I should never be moved. He had good days and a thankful heart. Then God hid his face. A man would think Samson should awake when the Philistines are upon him, but here devils be upon you. 1 Peter 5:10. If all be well now, yet remember evil days. Would you know when? Even when men say, peace. Thirdly, know the work you have to do, and make it your main business. When men have weighty business of the world in hand, they cannot sleep in their beds. And as the wicked, Proverbs 4:16, they sleep not without doing mischief, and so it is their main work. Fourthly, call yourself to account daily. Let not your soul long go on without reflecting, what do I do? Harts and hawks kept from sleep lose their wildness, but they must be constantly tended and kept watching. So consider the account you must give to God, 2 Corinthians 5:9, with verse 11. Hence Haggai 1:5, sins were upon them, and they repented not. Miseries, and those were not removed, because they considered not their ways, especially before the great tribunal of God. I am persuaded the reason why men walk in their sleep, and go dreaming up and down the world is this: they consider not, nor reflecting upon themselves to any purpose. What am I doing? Where am I going? No sermons awaken them. You consider not of them. And now a little bit of an overview of some of the rest of the chapters of the book by Thomas Shepard. Chapter 2, Carnal security comes by degrees. Carnal security falls upon the hearts of all men by degrees. For all the virgins here first slumbered before they slept. They first fall a winking and nodding, as the word signifies, short sleeps, and then startle and awake again, before they fall asleep for a longer time. A Christian is a slumbering Christian before he is a sleeping Christian. Do not think you are out of a state of carnal security because you have many times some quickenings and revivings of heart, because they may be only awakenings between your slumbers, which like flashes suddenly come and suddenly go again, which make you startle and rub your eyes and stir up yourself, but down you fall again. Wherever life is in a Christian, it is ever acting for spiritual ends. A man will awaken first with God in the morning, go first to Him in prayer, extraordinary occasions not preventing, and he will go from his prayer to his work, not as doing his own work, but as doing the Lord's work, hoeing, plowing, sowing for Him, and so on. What are the first degrees of this spiritual slumber? First, when men have lost the satisfying sense of the blessed face and love of God, when hypocrites have lost the imaginary side of it, and saints the real enjoyment of it. I shall be satisfied when I awake with Thine image. Sleep first shows itself in closing up of a man's eyes, that he sees not anything about him. Hence something else contents and must do it, when you feed not daily upon the Lord's love, and when that, then vain cares and thoughts overcome a man, and then grows a very worldling, as if he had hope of no other portion. Hence no mind after spiritual good things. Hence he sleeps at sermons, since he falls out into a passion and discontent with his present condition, nay, with every other thing, when any cross comes, because these things are sweet to you, and God is not, when discontented. The Lord keep my soul from entering into Thy secrets. Secondly, when men have lost all fear of the wrath to come and the terror of God on another day, not always the fear that I shall bear, but a dreadful apprehension of what it is. Number 3, when men have lost their foresight and hence provide not against an evil day, when Christians keep their profession and go on sweetly in their course, but to lay up for afterclaps that they do not, when Christians like grasshoppers sing all the summer, but what have they to live upon in the winter time?
Stillwater's Revival Books is now located at PuritanDownloads.com. It's your worldwide online Reformation home for the very best in free and discounted classic and contemporary, Puritan and Reformed books, MP3s, and videos. For much more information on the Puritans and Reformers, including the best free and discounted classic and contemporary books, MP3s, digital downloads, and videos, please visit Still Waters Revival Books at puritandownloads.com. Still Waters Revival Books also publishes the Puritan Hard Drive, the most powerful and practical Christian study tool ever produced. All thanks and glory be to the mercy, grace, and love of the Lord Jesus Christ for this remarkable and wonderful new Christian study tool. The Puritan Hard Drive contains over 12,500 of the best Reformation books, MP3s, and videos ever gathered onto one portable Christian study tool. An extraordinary collection of Puritan, Protestant, Calvinistic, Presbyterian, Covenanter, and Reformed Baptist resources. It's fully upgradable and it's small enough to fit in your pocket. The Puritan Hard Drive combines an embedded database containing many millions of records with the most amazing and extraordinary custom Christian search and research software ever created. The Puritan Hard Drive has been produced to assist you in the fascinating and exhilarating spiritual, intellectual, familial, ecclesiastical, and societal adventure that is living the Christian life. It has been specifically designed so that you might more faithfully know, serve, and love the Lord Jesus Christ, as well as to help you to do all you can to bring glory to His great name. If you want to love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, then the Puritan Hard Drive is for you. Visit puritandownloads.com today for much more information on the Puritan Hard Drive and to take advantage of all the free and discounted Reformation and Puritan books, MP3s, and videos that we offer at